Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So today there's going to be some more payments going out to certain beneficiaries of Social Security. Those payments are going to be right around $1,827 on average. We're going to be going over who's going to be receiving those payments, and we're also going to be looking at the payment schedule for Social Security in the month of June. Also, today, as of today, we are now just 8 days away from possibly defaulting on our debts, which again is going to be a complete economic catastrophe and could also mean that payments for Social Security in the month ahead in June, July could be delayed, something we definitely don't want to happen. But before I go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so once again, as of today, we are now just 8 days away from that June 1st deadline that the Treasury Secretary is giving us, in which we must raise the debt ceiling in order to avoid defaulting on our debts. Now, this would be the first time in our history that we did so this is really unfamiliar territory, but of course it's going to be very, very bad for our economy. Could be millions of jobs lost. The stock market is going to tank, so if you have a 401k, any type of retirement account, Americans are going to be losing millions of household wealth with that. So something we definitely do not want to happen. And of course, experts also warn that the payments for Social Security could be delayed, whether it's a day or two, a week, nobody really knows. Again, this is unfamiliar territory, something that we definitely don't want to happen. Now, as far as the timeline goes, again, we are now just 8 days to get this done, and they are not yet in an agreement. And keep in mind, once they do come to an agreement, these bills are not just going to be written all in one day and voted on and passed. These things are going to take some time. So according to experts in the congressional leaders, they say it's going to take at least 1 to 2 days to write the bill. So that's going to be 1 to 2 days gone from that 8-day timeline. Then after that, the House is going to have to be allowed at least 3 days to read over the bill. That is part of the new rules. In order for the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, to become the House Speaker, he had to agree to allow everyone in the House at least 3 days to read over the bill before actually voting on it. So this bill is going to be very lengthy. So obviously these people need some time to actually read over the bill before being able to actually know what's in the bill, vote on it, and pass on it. So those are going to be 3 more days gone. So we have 1 to 2 days to write the bill, 3 days to vote on it. And then after they vote on it, assuming it actually passes, then they have to move it on to the Senate. The Senate has to have time to perhaps read over the bill, also vote on it, and then send it to President Biden's desk. So looking at that timeline, realistically, they probably only have around maybe 3 days to come to an agreement between Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy. Are they going to be able to come to an agreement within 3 days? Nobody really knows. And of course, on Thursday later this week, we have everyone in Washington going home for Memorial Day weekend. Now, the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, says that he may actually hold members of the House in Washington until they're able to get this thing done. So they may not be able to go home for the Memorial Day weekend. We will just have to wait and see. And while right now it is being noted that the talks are friendly and, quote, productive, privately, they're actually saying that they are nowhere near an agreement. So that's some scary stuff, of course, with the June 1st deadline coming up. But of course, a lot of Republicans are actually doubting whether or not June 1st is the actual true deadline. They may think that that's actually a little bit later, perhaps June 8th or June 15th. So according to CNBC, Republicans question June 1st debt ceiling deadline as talks zero in on potential trade-offs. So a significant group of House Republicans raised questions Tuesday about whether the Treasury Department's June 1st deadline to avoid a potential U.S. debt default was accurate. Quote, "We'd like to see more transparency on how they come to that date," House Majority Leader Representative Steve Scalise said Tuesday at a news conference. Scalise also said he believes that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's latest comments out Monday, quote, "implied that it's June 1st or later, giving some openness to the idea that June 1st may not be the so-called X date." House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has not questioned Yellen's timeline, and on Tuesday his office reaffirmed in a news release that the deadline for talks is June 1st. Quote, "President Biden has now just 9 days to get serious and strike a responsible agreement to raise the debt limit immediately," read the release. House Republicans held their weekly conference meeting Tuesday morning, during which McCarthy reportedly said they were, quote, nowhere near a deal, and urged the caucus to stick together and support the deal that he eventually reaches. So that's the scary thing. Apparently, they are nowhere near a deal, and they have just 3 days to get this done. So according to the Hill, GOP debt ceiling negotiators say they ended with significant gap between both sides. So Republican negotiators are warning that a significant gap remains between the White House and GOP lawmakers on a deal to raise the debt ceiling, with 9 days to go until June 1st, the day the Treasury Department has said the U.S. could default. The fundamental issue is top-line discretionary spending levels, GOP negotiators Representative Garrett Graves and Patrick McHenry said in extensive comments to reporters late Tuesday afternoon. So obviously they're very far away. Whether or not they can bridge the gap over the next few days, we'll just have to wait and see. A lot of times these negotiations do get pushed off to the very last minute and they do get something done, but obviously this is very scary stuff. We definitely do not want to play chicken with defaulting on our debts. And of course, not only are Republicans upset that Democrats aren't giving in, Democrats are also pretty upset that the White House isn't demanding tax hikes in the debt fight. So Democrats believe that President Joe Biden and the White House should be pushing Republicans much harder on raising taxes on the wealthy. This is something that they want to bring in more revenues. And of course, while both sides are beginning to freak out with less than 10 days to go, Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, is telling everybody that, we just need to relax. These things happen all the time. Negotiations will happen, and we just need to calm down and realize there's probably going to be a deal made in the end. So according to the Hill, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell tried to calm fears of a possible debt default Tuesday, pleading with everyone to relax as talks continue between the White House and House GOP negotiators ahead of the likely June 1st deadline. McConnell told reporters, "I think everybody needs to relax," in his home state, again reiterating that the nation will not default on its payments, a declaration he's repeated throughout the negotiation process. Quote, "The last 10 times we raised the debt ceiling, there were things attached to it. This is not that unusual. It is almost entirely required when you have divided government." So McConnell is making the case here. This is something that happens every time. We should relax. We shouldn't worry that in less than 10 days, we could possibly default on our debts if June 1st is actually that deadline. Now, Jim Jordan, of course, came out on Twitter and attacked President Joe Biden, and this is what a lot of people actually think. In his tweet, he said that on January 12th, Speaker McCarthy calls on President Biden to negotiate on the debt ceiling. President Biden did nothing. Then on April 26th, the House Republicans passed a fair debt ceiling bill. President Biden did nothing. On May 12th, McCarthy again called for negotiations, and finally, they're negotiating. So basically, Jordan is insinuating here that they could have been negotiating this thing all the way back in January, but instead they waited all the way until May to really sit down at the negotiating table to try to get something done. Perhaps if they were trying back in January, they could have had something by now, but instead they're putting the livelihoods of Americans at risk, the on-time payments of Social Security, a lot of things at risk by just pushing this thing off until the very end. So if they're not able to get this thing done, really, quite frankly, actually a lawmaker in Washington pointed this out, I'm not sure whether or not they should be receiving their payments if Americans are going to be struggling during this time, if they're not able to raise the debt ceiling in time. Now, in some other news, of course, we do have some payments for certain Social Security beneficiaries going out today. So according to the Washington Examiner, direct payments worth up to $4,555 goes out to millions in one day. Now, the $4,555 number that they mention, of course, is the max that you can receive if you max out your earnings and you wait all the way until the age of 70 for Social Security retirement. So according to the Washington Examiner, the final round of May's 3 Social Security payments worth up to $4,555 will go out to retirees on Wednesday, according to the Social Security Administration schedule. So we can look at the schedule up on the screen here. We can see that payments went out on the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th this month. Today, of course, is the 24th. So those receiving their payments today were those born between the 21st and the 31st of any given month. Now, looking ahead until June, on June 1st, recipients of SSI will receive their first payment of the month, And then on June 30th, SSI recipients will receive their second payment. That's actually going to be their July payment that they're going to be receiving a little bit earlier, simply because July 1st is going to be falling on a Saturday. Then on June 2nd, there's going to be some more payments going out. Those are going to be going to those who received Social Security before May of 1997, or if you're receiving both Social Security and SSI, you're going to be getting that payment on the 2nd because the 3rd falls on a Saturday. And then there's going to be some more payments going out on June 14th, June 21st, and June 28th. Again, it's just going to depend on where your birthday falls. Now, if we do default on our debts, I would say the payments on the 1st and the 2nd are most likely probably pretty safe. It's going to be those payments in the middle and later half of the month that they could possibly be delayed if June 1st is the date in which we default, and we do default on our debts and they're not able to raise the debt ceiling on time. Those could possibly be delayed by a day or two. I think maybe they will be on time, but it is possible, according to some experts, that they could possibly be delayed. And that June 14th, June 21st, and June 28th payment, those are really going to be up in the air if we're not able to raise the debt ceiling by June 1st. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But that's all the news that I have for today's video. So I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. And I will see you in the next video.